Dance, the MJ documentary just ended. So what were you guys' thoughts? There were a couple of things that I read that were brought up. Things like the Wizards were never mentioned at
Well,
all.
yeah, that's a low light in
Yeah.
his.
They didn't even mention that Jerry Krause died, which was wild.
Well, so here's the thing. So we knew going into it that MJ had complete control over the documentary. Like he had to clear everything. Nothing would get in. I mean, it's less of a documentary at that point and more of an autobiography. But it was fun to watch. I didn't believe most of the words that came out of MJ's mouth. Most of them,
like the fact that the flu game was a sick pizza.
Yeah, sick pizza. Nah, dude. Were you just super hungover, or like what was going on there? Like
I've heard that story before. Like I've heard that story.
Right, but the pizza guy's like he's 50 now. He's like if he was a Bulls fan, like what the fuck? Why would that just something seems a little off?
So Ryan Russillo says he doesn't believe it himself, but just years ago, one of the guys came up to him in like Chicago or something, says, where were they playing? Whatever.
Utah.
And it was like, hey, it was my boys. They were the ones that poisoned the pizza. And it was like, so there's been this, some people like to claim credit for it, like in some secret circles and stuff. It's been a thing that's been around.
Dude, I think
people still walk into police stations to this day and claim credit for killing Kennedy. Like, there's just crazy people.
Facts.
Yeah. I just think Jordan's high.
Mauricio, you fit the description with that fucking hair.
Thanks.
Now, the thing, I don't call it a documentary, like, at all. It's not. It's the same thing that Ken Burns came out and he was kind of criticizing the documentary itself. And he talked to the director and the producers, and they completely cleared it out. It was entertainment. Like, there were stories that we wanted to hear from Jordan's perspective. That's entertaining. But there wasn't, like, some deep journalistic dive into finding the truth about the...
No.
Okay.
Yeah. It was pure cinema. That's all it was.
It's like he recorded some shit from, like, the Dynasty, and here you go.
Yeah, it
was almost like a reality show.
Yeah, it's archives with commentary on what was going on.
Yeah, and there's the thing is, like, there were certain things that I wanted to see a lot more of compared to other things that I wasn't. Like the when he was doing Space Jam and they set up the bubble, I want those practice tapes.
Is it one of those
the
one where Shaq shatters the backboard?
Dude,
that
wasn't in the dome.
Nah, he was playing Ahmad Rashad.
But Shaq shattered more than one backboard, so I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, but that was funny.
Yeah, but there's
a lot. To take big man. Oh shit!
But it cleared. The thing is, that it also gave us a perspective that I think everybody wanted to have as far as where MJ came from, because MJ didn't necessarily talk about a lot of stuff. Out there like that.
Yeah, he hated the media. So this was kind of cool to see him comment a little bit. Like, we kind of knew what his feelings were on a lot of this stuff. Like when he was like, yes, no, maybe. Write that down. Like as he's walking into practice, he just doesn't want to give any answers.
Like, can I walk in peace, please?
And I didn't realize, what was it, the SI feud where they published a story? I mean, I remember watching him play baseball, but like I didn't realize that there was ever any. I mean, to me, when I was a kid, he was in the majors. I didn't even realize it was AAA ball or 2A ball. Like, I watched him on TV. Like, that shit got coverage. So I didn't realize he wasn't in the majors, but I didn't realize that he wasn't as good or he was getting criticism for not being as good as, as people thought he should be.
Yeah, that's where my whole MJ thing comes from, is from Space Jam, which was all right, this is a dude who plays basketball. Like, everybody knows Michael Jordan, you're growing up. Like, you watch McDonald's commercial, anything. And then you watch Space Jam, it's like, oh, he plays baseball now and he sucks? Like, that was kind of the whole thing. Like, it was a running gag in Space Jam as far as, like,
don't swing.
Right?
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
I can't help it.
It's like, that's the thing that's so crazy about, like, I think our generation is that, like, The Last Dance is, like, my earliest memories of basketball. It was, like, him coming back. Because it was, like, it was around that Space Jam time. Like, he was coming back to play basketball, and it was a huge deal. your teachers would talk about it, or if you catch a glimpse of the news, you would hear about it. Or when ESPN had like a lot of marquee guys, Aaron Stewart, Scott, and all those guys, like you hear about MJ and his return to basketball. So I think that was sort of the prism in which I was looking at everything, and it was kind of cool to fill in a lot of the gaps that like you've heard stories about. But there's also a lot of stuff that I think was not necessarily – it didn't necessarily reflect completely accurately about the way that people felt about certain things at the time. So, like, Dennis Rodman is this beloved figure now, right? And everybody kind of looks at it and looks at all of his antics and everything. I think what people fail to realize is that once again, looking at earliest memories of basketball, Dennis Rodman was annoying the fuck out of everybody. No one was laughing at his antics. They were all extremely pissed off about what a, like, cancer he was as far as all the shit that he was doing outside of basketball. So just like this time puts enough distance where we look at everything with rose-colored glasses.
I'm a work hard, play hard kind of person, and he fucking left it on the floor every game. So
yeah, that picture of him like diving.
Yeah,
like that was crazy.
That was crazy, but like
he's a crazy person.
I didn't see those pictures and put it in that context until I was a lot older, right? So like looking at
and he had Carmen Electra.
Well, it was like I remember the covers of like when he married himself. What the fuck? Are you rubbing your nipple?
You heard Carmen
we can't
Electra.
Put that on YouTube.
Oh, we're gonna.
We have to blur him out. Somebody could they blur him out?
There's no actual nipples.
Blur him out.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Hello. You stun everyone with your nipple rubbing.
Carmen Electra is so electric. I can't help.
Yeah, she still looks amazing.
No, yeah. I think the State Farm commercials during the MJ documentary were more real than the documentary itself. That's all I'm saying.
They did a good job with those.
Oh, they did.
Really good
I'm
Why didn't they say anything about Craig Hodges though? That was weird.
Go on.
Well, I mean, if you're gonna go. The Craig Hodges thing, especially when you're hearing him talk about, like, the stuff that's happening after the fact, like, how he felt. I mean, he was talking about it back then, how he got blackballed by the league for being, like, the original Colin Kaepernick.
I mean, it makes sense because it goes against the narrative, but it would have been, like, a nice little point to add. Like, if MJ didn't have full control, right, of the documentary, that part when they were talking about how he didn't do the commercial or whatever for the politician in North Carolina.
Yeah.
They could have added like him not stepping up for Craig Hodges and that infamous meeting before the All-Star game where Craig Hodges asked MJ and Magic to protest and they were like, nah.
Well, why? Here's the thing though. And
nah.
But why does it matter?
I think that can be a whole separate. I mean, I think if that was going to be a documentary, it should be from a third party. So you know,
that's what I said. MJ didn't have control.
But MJ kind of explained it. He's like, no, it's not my thing. I'm not getting political.
No, but here's the thing. I don't think even if Craig Hodges doesn't make the cut, I'm sorry, he doesn't. Like at the end of the day, there was even a part of me, as much as I appreciated the episode, when they're going through the Scottie Pippen episode, the Dennis Rodman episode, you don't really give a shit as much as you care. It's a Michael Jordan documentary. That's what we all tuned in. I mean, It's a lot of times when they start going on some of the ancillary characters, I'm like, dude, is Steve Kerr gonna get a whole fucking episode? Like you start watching it, you're like, I don't care to see that. Like if from an entertainment standpoint. If it's a Ken Burns 20-part special on PBS about the Chicago Bulls, yeah, okay. We're gonna go into it. He's gonna drone on, and we're gonna have a bunch of fucking old black and white photos.
There's going to be an episode on the types of linens he wore.
Dear mother, I'm writing this letter from Utah. Like, fuck, I don't want any of this shit. Like,
I want Michael Jordan saying, "Fuck that dude."
You got a lot of these dudes right now. Like, there's a lot of ancillary characters. Like, man, I wanted more shine. Like,
dude, you know what? I thought they did not give Kukoc enough. Like Kukoc was like,
he got enough.
Like
he got enough.
I mean, they gave Scottie Pippen, I think, less airtime than they gave Steve Kerr. And don't get me wrong, Steve Kerr is a baller, was a baller. Now he's got scoliosis.
I really appreciated them going into the story about his dad because I had no idea.
Oh, that was wild. I had no idea either.
It was a perfectly selected amount of stuff to get you like, all right, we have buy-in with these guys, especially when you got like a Steve Kerr who's still around. Scotty Pippen's still around. Like you want to know more. Oh wow, I didn't know that about this guy and how it fits into the grand scheme of stuff. But like, if you tell me that there's a choice between 10 minutes spent on Craig Hodges compared to, I wanted to see more of MJ's family. I wanted to see more about the dynamic with his kids. When they started showing his kids in the last episode, I'm like, oh my God, are we gonna get this finally? Like, no, we didn't at all. But there's
wait, didn't his son get in trouble for some stupid shit?
Dude, there's so much that you want to understand about the Michael Jordan thing. It's like, you would think with the amount of dedication, amount of time that he put into being what it is he was, and the amount of time he spent gambling on the golf course or just being Michael Jordan in the sense of like the media, I wonder what kind of impact that has on your family. Like how in the world can you juggle all that?
He had a daughter.
How often did you see his wife get brought up?
I think he probably wanted to keep family out of it, except for his mom and his dad.
And that's what I'm saying. Is like it was carefully selected as far as what they.
Are they still together?
Him and his wife?
I thought didn't he get divorced and then something else? I don't know. I don't 100%.
I think so. I mean, I know he wasn't in his house with the documentary.
Well, all right, hold on. I'm gonna look it up.
He can't even sell his house. I'd buy that shit.
It means like everybody, where's the Tony Kukoc? Fuck that. I don't want to see it. No, we're good. All right, you came from a bombed-out European place. It was dangerous there. They were going to pay you X amount of dollars. The dream team teabagged you for how many minutes? Like, I get it.
Oh, he's married to Yvette Prieto, who's
right, and he got married in 2013, but then his first wife was Juanita Benoit in 1989 to 2006.
So that's
I didn't see Juanita, and you can't tell me Juanita didn't have a huge impact on what was happening. Like, you can't. Like, that to me is where you get into is it a Jordan documentary? Is it strictly about the 98 Bulls?
It's an autobiography about the Bulls and like a couple personal things. That's all it is.
Right.
It should have been called Six Rings. And
okay, but wait. I have a question though.
I actually like that a lot.
Why did they even discuss the year that Mike was like playing baseball and then they went to Scotty's lowest moment as an NBA player?
Because MJ still wants to be the greatest of all time.
You said, why would they do it? Because, I mean, it fits into the dichotomy of the team going into 98 as far as, like, what Scotty meant to the team, how the team looked when Michael was gone. Because there's a question as far as to whether or not they could have won without Mike, right? So then you get that and you start seeing where Scotty falls as far as from a leadership standpoint. And you compare it to when he comes back and how he changes personality-wise or how the team looks at him as far as how the – because there's also the angle of, like, and this is why I gave Joe Budden's podcast and Rory some shit, because they fucking – I'm not sure if Michael Jordan's teammates liked him or not. Like, did you watch the fucking shit? Like, when you hear them talk about how like, there was – when Scotty became the leader and, like, he could have a conversation with you and he would try to pump you up and make you feel better and, like, everything's going to be okay, where Mike is constantly yelling in your fucking face. Like, I think that dynamic's important if you're trying to draw out the entire line as far as, like, what the Bulls meant and how it is.
It's kind of like if you're trying to tear down all the other buildings so that you have the tallest building, like
that's what he's doing.
That whole thing. I'm not cool with that.
Mauricio. Yeah. Eye contact, buddy.
Eye contact. Oh, hi.
Stay with us.
He's just doing this.
I'm looking at you.
Motherfucker, your eyes are glazed over. Like, I'm literally seeing soccer players in your fucking pupils going back and forth.
Sorry, boys. The fucking
all right, Mauricio, what's next?
All right, the next
thing. Just the last thing I want to say is I like that there was a little bit of a dig at the Bulls, but the last thing it said is, and then they started to rebuild. And if you look, the Bulls have not been back to a finals since.
But they should have mentioned that Jerry Krause passed away.
You know what? Look, there are some people who, if they died, I would not throw a party about it, but I wouldn't, you know, I mean, I wouldn't feel fair, one way or the other. And you know what? If it was his bag, it was his show, and he decided that he didn't feel like he didn't really say anything negative about Jerry Krause other than they didn't get along. He said some shit that was recorded 25 years ago.
About Jerry Krause.
Dog, Jerry Krause got shot on.
But
he got like they shitted on him the whole podcast. I mean the whole documentary.
If you and Michael Jordan are really on opposite ends of the liking each other category, and he makes a documentary, guess what? Should have been talking.
But
shit.
If you're no longer here, you got to give him some respect.
Wait, but he didn't put anything in that didn't have Jerry Krause while Jerry Krause was still alive.
But I didn't. But here's the thing: when they were showing those cue cards, did they say Jordan came back to play for the Wizards?
No.
There was no. Right. That's what I'm saying. There wasn't any like, here's what happened for everybody down the line, like some movie would be.
No, but here's what I'm saying though. Just based on the fact that this documentary wasn't. It was like Jerry Krause passed away in 2017, right?
Yeah, very recent.
This shit came out this year. You can add some shit to say like.
No, it sounds like you're saying that they should have said this was in memoriam of Jerry Krause.
No, like at the end of the documentary, they had a bunch of people who passed away since the start of this shit to now.
I didn't see that.
I didn't see that.
They talked about the security guard who passed away. Rest in peace.
Shit.
Oh, what? You're talking? No.
I just add some shit to be like,
bullshit. Because here's the thing: they're talking about the security guard and the security guard passing away. But what was important on that, from a story standpoint, was seeing Jordan's connection with that guy after his dad passed away, and what impact that had on the '98 finals.
There was
one thing.
There was more than one security guard that passed away.
I get it, but they're talking about within Jordan. How Jordan's relationship with these guys and how it fit.
So one of the greatest GMs of all time.
He died in 2017, and I don't think. Do you think one of those Bulls had a relationship with him at that point?
I don't know.
So you're
probably not.
You're talking about 20 years later. Why are they? What impact?
If he is that big of a piece of the documentary, you can say that he died.
His death doesn't fit into the story.
Everybody went to Wikipedia and figured out he died. End of story.
His death doesn't fit into the story. That's all I'm saying. Is that his death?
When they do the Wizards
put a
documentary,
little cue card at the end to say, "Hey,
there was no cue
he passed away. Rest in peace."
That's my point.
Bam. Look. No, you're not going to put me on the side. I'm not defending Jerry Krause. I don't agree with his decision making. A part of like the team should be broken up.
Hold on, Jerry Krause actually gets off the hook a little bit because of that documentary, in my opinion. Just because when you're talking about what happened when it came to Phil Jackson's meeting with Reinsdorf after the fact, and when Reinsdorf was like, "You should come back." That to me was, I didn't know that meeting itself happened. I didn't know that. And then on top of that, I still blame Reinsdorf more than anybody as far as allowing the GM to let that happen.
Dude,
he's still the final say.
Jordan said if they had given them all 1-year contracts, they would all come back and won a 7.
That was the biggest moment in this entire documentary to me, was seeing MJ at the end saying how fucked up in his head it was, and how he still has this longing, like, regret that they didn't get to continue to go. Because you just don't know. I don't think they would have won another one. I honestly don't. But but the fact that they didn't have the opportunity to, that's more than just Krause. Krause should have never been in a position to do that.
And maybe that was his rest in peace, is give Jerry Krause
none of that,
let him off the hook a little bit.
None of that like stalls the fact that I said, hey, they should have just said Jerry Krause passed away.
I'm saying that the Jerry Krause thing saying Jerry Krause passed away does not fit into anything else they were doing with the documentary.
Yeah.
He died in 2017. No, it doesn't. He died in 2017. The Bulls hadn't been in the championship in 20 years. It doesn't fit that story. Outside of that, he doesn't have, his death does not impact Michael, Pippen, any of them, other than when they probably heard the dad. It was like, oh shit, okay. Then they didn't have a cue card for anybody else that died, so why have a special one for him?
They did. What are you talking about? I told you. You said you didn't see it, but I'm telling you, I saw it. It was there.
All right, fine.
You can't mention like 4 or 5 people that passed away and then just exclude him.
They did.
Like, he was in the documentary.
I didn't even notice that they didn't put him in. That's how little.
Yeah, I didn't know.
That's fine. But like, what I did was, after the end of it, like, I went on Twitter, of course, as everybody does, and I looked around, and people were like, yeah, that was weird. They didn't even mention that he passed away. It was kind of like if he was still alive, he would be like in the documentary giving like current accounts of shit. But he's dead.
All right.
And he wasn't, so he didn't get to participate. So he doesn't get a participation trophy. He's over.
He doesn't get a ribbon.
That
was next, Mal.
They didn't like him. They hated his ass. That's what it is.
Yeah, no, that's fine. But
I'm surprised
after someone passes away, you
oh my
gotta
God, what's next? Shut up.
Just let the shit go.
Fuck Jerry Krause. Continue.
They wouldn't have said R.I.P. Isaiah if Isaiah died either.
And stop him.
They would have.
Mauricio, throw a pair of nuts and have us change topics. You